Now, Of Plymouth Plantation is a nonfiction book about the journey of what we call the Pilgrims from Europe to New England, and it was written by William Bradford. The purpose of him writing is to make sure that there is actually a history of this journey. So basically, they're separatists who wanted to break from the Church of England because they didn't think it was strict enough in its interpretation of the Bible and its condemnation of Catholicism. So these people are referred to as the Puritans. They created their own church, which was totally illegal at the time, and then left England and traveled to Amsterdam, and then they ended up in Leiden because their group in Amsterdam was in disarray. However, they were concerned about foreign influence on their children and losing their native language, and they started in 1617 to look for a patent to set up a place for them in Virginia. So they eventually get that permission, and they set out on the Mayflower. Bradford details the hardships of their journey and a sailor who keeps telling them that he can't wait to throw them overboard, but ironically, it's that guy who's the first to die. So this is not a fun journey. They are stuck below decks, it's cramped, probably smelly, because the Mayflower wasn't even built to carry people, and they actually hit pretty bad storms, and they're completely blown off course. So they end up in Massachusetts. They did try to get to Virginia, but they couldn't get there, so they decided that they needed to stay in Plymouth. Once they decided to stay there, they knew they couldn't do it without some sort of governing document and infrastructure. So they made the Mayflower Compact, which is only about a paragraph long and was based off a former church covenant. If you think about it, that makes sense because they're so ingrained in the church, this is really the only example they had to go off of. So it basically reads that by the power of King James, we are here and we will come together in a political body to create order and just and equal laws, and everyone signed below promises to abide by them. Yet they couldn't really get off the boat and go settle the area because it was winter. So they stayed on the ship, but this was a horrible winter, and about half of them actually died. All of them probably would have died if it hadn't been for the help of the Native Americans. Through Squanto, their interpreter, they were able to actually survive. However, this was not all copacetic like those after-school specials show. The Native Americans didn't trust them, and they did not trust the natives. So they decided to make an agreement to help each group live in harmony with the other. The first rule of this peace agreement is that none of the natives should be allowed to hurt any of the settlers. The second was that if a native did hurt a settler, the native would be turned over to the settlers for punishment. The third is a little more equitable because it says if anything is taken by either group, it should be returned. The fourth is also equitable, saying that if any group unjustly does war against either of them, the other one will come to their aid. So the settlers then tell Squanto to go out and tell the other tribes so they all agree and they can live together peacefully. However, the final part of the peace terms says that if the natives are to come to the town, they have to leave all of their weapons behind. So after this, Bradford continues on to talk about some of the famous people and the founding of New England, and in the end laments that there are many people who are falling away from the Puritan way of life, and he thinks this will invoke God's displeasure and be the ruin of New England.